Let God handle the impossible. Life often brings us to moments of overwhelming challenge where the weight of the world feels unbearable and the path ahead seems impossible. In these moments, it's easy to doubt, to question, and to feel lost. We wonder how we'll ever get through, how things could possibly change. But what if I told you that there is a deeper truth, that you don't have to carry that burden alone, that you don't have to figure everything out on your own? In the midst of the impossible, we are called to let go, to trust in a power greater than ourselves. Today, we're going to explore a powerful truth. Let God handle the impossible. Keep trusting in Him even when you don't understand. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 3:5-6, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight." This verse reminds us that we don't have to have all the answers. In fact, we're not meant to. God is the one who holds the answers, and He is faithful to guide us, even when the road ahead feels unclear. As you face your challenges today, remember this: you don't have to carry the weight alone. Let God handle the impossible. Trust Him even when you don't understand, and watch as He transforms your struggles into something beautiful. Introduction to Trusting God. When life's challenges seem insurmountable, it's natural to feel overwhelmed, confused, and uncertain about the future. In these moments, we ask ourselves questions like, "How will I get through this?" Or, "Why is this happening to me?" We wrestle with our circumstances, wondering what God is doing in our lives right now. The truth is, life often doesn't make sense, and it's easy to become anxious and fearful. But it's in these very moments that God calls us to trust Him, even when we can't see the way forward. The Bible teaches us to trust in God, even in our darkest hours. In fact, Proverbs 3:5-6 tells us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight." This verse isn't just a reminder, it's an invitation. It encourages us to release our grip on control and acknowledge that we don't have to understand everything. In fact, it's often in surrendering our need to know that we make space for God to lead us in ways that are beyond our understanding. Trusting God means letting go of our own need for certainty and control. It means acknowledging that His wisdom far exceeds our own. Even when we don't understand the journey He has us on, we are asked to trust that He is guiding us with love and purpose. Trust doesn't come easily when life is full of questions, but it is in those moments of uncertainty that we are invited to lean into God's promises. And as we place our trust in Him, we open ourselves to experiencing His presence in deeper, more powerful ways. No matter where you are in your journey, remember, trusting God doesn't mean having all the answers. It means resting in the truth that He is with you every step of the way. The impossible is God's field of expertise. The concept of impossible can often be paralyzing. When we face obstacles that seem insurmountable, it's easy to become overwhelmed, to believe that we are trapped in a situation with no way out. But what if I told you that the very things we see as impossible are actually within God's field of expertise? What we perceive as limitations, as roadblocks, God sees as opportunities for miracles. Throughout the Bible, we see that God has a remarkable track record of stepping into impossible situations and turning them around. Take the story of Moses, for example. Moses stood at the edge of the Red Sea, with the mighty Egyptian army closing in behind him. The sea in front of him, an impossible obstacle. And yet, with God's power, the sea parted, and the Israelites walked through on dry land. What seemed utterly impossible in human terms became a miraculous deliverance because God was involved. And then there's the story of David and Goliath. A young shepherd David, faced with a giant, an opponent who seemed undefinable. All odds were stacked against him. Yet, in his faith in God, he didn't rely on his own strength or skill, but on God's power. What seemed like certain defeat turned into an extraordinary victory. David's trust in God's strength allowed him to overcome the impossible. And let's not forget the miracle of Jesus feeding the 5,000. Thousands of people gathered with only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish to feed them. From a human perspective, this was impossible. But Jesus took what was small and inadequate in the eyes of man and multiplied it, providing abundantly for all. What seemed impossible, Jesus made possible. The crowd ate, and there were even leftovers, a perfect example of how God's provision exceeds our understanding. In each of these stories, God's power transcended the limitations of human understanding. What we see as an obstacle or a dead end, God sees as an opportunity for a miracle. The impossible became possible, not because of human ability, but because God's plan was always greater than our perception of what could be done. When we trust God, we're invited into a perspective shift. What we think is impossible becomes a space where God can move and work in ways we couldn't even begin to imagine. God specializes in the impossible. So, the next time you find yourself facing a challenge that seems insurmountable, remember this: God's expertise is not limited by what you see. He's the God of the impossible, and He is fully able to turn your obstacles into opportunities. So, no matter how impossible your situation might feel, remember, you serve a God who specializes in making the impossible possible. Trust Him and watch as He works miracles in your life. Why we must trust even when we don't understand. It's easy to trust when things are going well, when the path is clear and the answers come easily. But what about those times when life feels chaotic? When the bills pile up, when deadlines loom, when you're facing an uncertain future? What about when you don't have all the answers and the road ahead seems unclear? It's in these moments, the difficult, messy, and confusing moments, that trusting God becomes not just important, but absolutely essential. The truth is, there will always be times in life when we don't understand why things are happening the way they are. We don't know why the doors we've prayed for remain closed, or why the situations we're facing seem impossible to overcome. But in these moments, we are reminded that God's perspective is far greater than our own. Isaiah 55 verse 8-9 tells us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." God sees the bigger picture, the beginning, the middle, and the end. While we only see a small portion of our journey, God sees the entire path. He understands the bigger plan, the intricate details, and the reasons behind the struggles we can't comprehend. And in those moments when life seems uncertain, we must trust that His ways are better than ours. It's in these moments of confusion and uncertainty that trusting God becomes an invitation to lean on Him, to trust in His wisdom, His timing, and His plan, even when we can't see the whole picture. When we don't understand, we're called to trust more deeply, to hold on to His promises, and to remember that He is working everything together for our good. Remember, God's understanding is far beyond ours. When you don't have the answers, it's not the time to turn away in fear or frustration. It's the time to trust Him even more, knowing that He is walking with you, even when you don't understand the path ahead. So, the next time life feels overwhelming and you find yourself asking, "Why, God? Why is this happening?" remember that it's okay not to have all the answers. Trust in the One who knows the answers, the One who sees the full picture. His ways are higher than ours, and He will lead you through the storm, even when you can't see the end. The promise of peace and strength. God doesn't promise that life will always be easy, nor does He promise that we will have all the answers. But what He does promise is peace and strength for the journey. Philippians 4:6-7 reminds us, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." In those moments when life feels overwhelming, when doubt creeps in, God offers us His peace, a peace that doesn't make sense to the world's standards, but is deeply reassuring and comforting to our souls. This peace isn't tied to our circumstances. It isn't about everything going perfectly. It's about knowing that even when things are hard, God is with us. This peace guards our hearts and minds. It's a protective peace, one that shields us from the overwhelming weight of fear and anxiety. It's the kind of peace that gives us strength to keep moving forward, even when we don't understand what's happening around us. It's not a peace that removes all the struggles, but a peace that enables us to face them with courage. How to practically trust God in impossible situations. Now, let's talk about how to practically trust God in impossible situations, when the weight of the world feels heavy and the future is uncertain. First, acknowledge your feelings. It's okay to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or unsure. God knows your heart, and He welcomes your honesty. Don't suppress your emotions. Bring them to God in prayer. He is ready to listen. Second, choose to surrender control. We often try to hold on tightly to the outcome, desperate to make sense of everything. But surrendering control means letting go of the need to have everything figured out. It means choosing to trust that God is in control, even when the path ahead isn't clear. Third, remember God's promises. Reflect on the times in your life when God has been faithful to you. When He came through for you in ways that you never expected. Hold on to those moments and trust that the same God who was faithful in the past will be faithful now. He doesn't change. Finally, reach out for support. You don't have to carry this burden alone. Sometimes we think we need to handle everything ourselves, but God has placed people in your life for a reason. Surround yourself with a community of people who can encourage you, pray with you, and lift you up when your strength is running low. Trusting God isn't just about doing it on your own. It's about leaning on God and the people He places around you to help carry the load. Together, we are stronger. So, when you face the impossible, when the path seems uncertain and the struggles seem overwhelming, remember this: you do not have to carry it alone. Let God handle the impossible. Trust in His plan, even when you don't understand it. And know that the same God who parted the Red Sea, who helped David defeat Goliath, and who multiplied the loaves and fish, is the same God who is walking with you today. Trust in Him, and watch as He turns the impossible into a story of His power, His love, and His faithfulness. So when you find yourself facing the impossible, when the weight of life feels too heavy to bear, when the mountains before you seem insurmountable, remember this: you do not have to carry the burden on your own. You do not have to figure everything out by yourself. Let God handle the impossible. God's invitation is not to walk through life carrying every burden alone, struggling to manage every detail. He promises to be with you, to guide you through every challenge, no matter how overwhelming it may seem. Trusting God means acknowledging that His plan is greater than our understanding. And even when we can't see the whole picture, He can. The same God who parted the Red Sea for Moses, who helped David defeat Goliath with just a slingshot, and who took 5 loaves and 2 fish and fed thousands, that same God is with you right now. The God who made the impossible possible for them is the same God who is walking with you through every challenge, every setback, and every unknown. He hasn't changed, and His love for you has never wavered. What seems impossible to us is never beyond His ability. So today, I encourage you to trust in Him, even when it feels difficult. Even when the road ahead seems unclear, trust that He is at work. Trust that He is guiding you, leading you through the storm, and preparing you for something greater than you can imagine. Trust in Him and watch as He turns the impossible into a testimony, a living, breathing story of His power, His love, and His faithfulness. Thank you for joining us today. If this message has touched your heart, encouraged you, or helped you trust God in a deeper way, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's continue walking this journey together, supporting one another and reminding each other that no matter what we face, we are never alone.